Hi everybody, this is Anne. I always get messages from people asking me to design more hand-building projects. As you can imagine, I'm always doodling possible forms and experimenting with different hand-building techniques. In this video, I thought I'd demonstrate 3 hand-building projects, each using a different method for making it. I'm also giving you the templates for free, so check out the link in the description section. First, I thought it'd be fun to make an oval type of fruit bowl using paper templates. The first thing I did was to cut 2 of the straight side templates from a 1/4-inch slab. I let those slab pieces dry out for about 1.5 hours to stiffen up a bit. Once they were able to stand upright without slumping, I rolled out more clay to a 1/4-inch thick and ribbed it. I cut out 2 of the kidney-shaped templates and the template that will go on the bottom. Using a damp finger, I cleaned up the ragged edges, rounding the corners down as I went. I also used a damp sponge to dampen and reinforce those edges. I turned over the slabs and repeated this again along the edges. This step helps prevent cracking once the clay is bent. Now here are the side pieces. They're rigid but not too dry. I positioned the bottom template piece onto a bat, then placed the side pieces into each respective slot, making sure they fit just right. I scored the inner edges of the notches along the bottom template slab and the edges of the side pieces which will attach to them. I slipped the first side, then attached it to the base so it was straight up and down. I rolled out a coil and attached that to the seam, working it in to keep the pieces together. I worked the outer part of the side template, making sure that the slab was flush with the bottom edge. I repeated this process for the other side. I picked up the kidney-shaped template piece and folded it along the rounded edge of the basket bottom. I lined it up so the highest part of the kidney was at the very back, and the 2 edges of the kidney lined up on either side of the basket. When everything was straight, I used my needle tool to mark each connection point. I laid the kidney back down and scored within the boundaries of the needle tool marks. I slipped the sides and bottom edge, then attached the kidney template. I really press with my fingers to get a good connection both along the side edge and then along the back all the way around to secure it to the bottom. I used a wet paintbrush to help seal the seams. Again, I rolled out little coils and attached them to the inner connection edges, both along the vertical sides and along the bottom seam. I repeated those steps for the other kidney-shaped template. I wet my fingers and stretched the rounded edges back a little bit. Now here's one I made earlier. I added little balls of clay to each corner and underglazed very simple butterflies and leaves along the rounded edges. When you look at it straight on, you can see the butterfly effect from the kidney-shaped corners. I bisque fired this to cone 04. I then glazed the inside and around the butterflies with my white liner glaze, then glazed clear over the blue sides. I can see this filled with fruit sitting in the center of your kitchen island. Now here's another version of that same design, only bigger and the edges flared out more. I really took my time to paint detailed butterflies all around this one. I bisque fired it to cone 04. I glazed it with my white liner glaze and around the butterflies, then used Amico Sky over the blue sides. With those angled sides, the butterfly wings become more pronounced. For the next project, I'll be using tar paper as my template and mold. For the template, I used number 30 roofing felt, which you can get at any hardware store. I ripped off a strip more than 20 inches long. I used a ruler to mark a rectangular strip 20 inches long and 4 inches wide. I marked that into 10 4 by 2 inch sections. I then cut the strip out. I placed a ruler along that first section mark and bent the tar paper along the ruler edge. I then folded the tar paper flat to make a crease. I turned the paper over and folded the next section backwards. Turning the paper again, I used a roller against the next line and folded that forward. Make sure each fold lines up along your mark. And when you're done, you should have an accordion-style folded strip. I rolled out a very long 1/4 inch slab. I placed the template along the clay and rolled it flat so that it stuck down tight. I used a needle tool and cut out the slab. I turned the strip on its side and began to work the accordion edges into a star shape. Once I got it folded, I scored and slipped the unconnected edges. I butted the edges together and worked the clay into a solid joint. I went around each of the folded inner edges with a paintbrush to reinforce the edges and keep them from splitting. I rolled another 1/4 inch slab and cut out the star template from it. This will be the floor of the container. I placed this on a bat. I scored all the edges of the star. I then worked the folded body of the container so the walls fit over top of the bottom. I removed the tar paper, then worked the bottom seams together. With my wet fingers, I worked the clay along the edges, reinforcing them so they don't crack as they dry. I worked the edges of the body to make them a bit more crisp. I added little bits of clay along each of the bent edges to reinforce them against cracking. You can see how thin each bend gets as the clay stretches. I added clay coils along the inner bottom edge and worked that in. Finally, I used the star template along the top edge to make sure the top edges were angled just right and matched the bottom. Now here's one I made earlier that I underglazed again with the butterflies and leaves. I bisque fired it to cone 04. I then glazed it with the white glaze around the imagery and Amico Celadon mulberry around the borders. What a beautiful summery serving bowl! Finally, I'm going to make trapezoid serving dishes using foamular as push plates. I purchased the foamular sheet in the construction section of the hardware store. I cut mine out with a jigsaw, but you can use a sharp X-Acto knife too. I'm also using some checked liner material for texture. I rolled out a wide slab and laid the liner vertically along the slab. I rolled it into the slab, applying firm pressure. When I took the liner away, here's the texture I got. Now I'm going to make 3 dishes. I placed a paper template on the bottom part of the texture, 3/4 of the way over top of the texture, and traced around it. I laid the same template above the first tracing, but just to the left. Then I traced that. I took the same approach with the 3rd template and cut it out. Using damp fingers, I smoothed the edges of each slab. Now I need a piece of thick foam and the foamular piece. You can find the foam in a fabric shop. I laid the slab on top of the foam. I centered the foamular in the very center of the slab. Using both hands, I used even pressure to push down into the foam. You will see the exposed edges curl up around the plate. Now here they are. The designs lined up along the plates when the edges are together. Now here are some I made earlier. I decided to add underglaze bees along the sides. I glazed the texture with Amico Weeping Plum Celadon. I could see these on a serving table, maybe with appetizers on them or candies. Let me know in the comments section which design you like the best and if you think you might give one or all of these a try. Thanks to the newest members of our Little Street Pottery Research Facility team. If you'd like to join the team and earn a title, click on the Super Thanks button or the link to buy me a coffee. It also really helps us out if you hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. See you next time in the studio.